The meeting will come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have two members who are unable to attend this evening. That would be, one. No, Jerry Barron and Sandy Fosdick is remotely through Zoom. So, yes, Jackie has Jerry's proxy. At this time, if any of you are here to address the board, please sign up on the sheet near the door where you walk in. That way we'll have an accurate record of the name so we don't get your name mixed up. With that, we had an executive session on the 13th of July. In the best interest of the POA, the Board of Directors has entered into an agreement to settle the last and final lawsuit related to the Trafalgar fire for $400,000 with Mr. Tom Fredericks. The POA Board of Directors is relieved to reach this settlement and believes this challenging chapter in our history of our community is finally behind us. The Board of Directors voted unanimously to approve this settlement. Next up is the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the June regular meeting?
So moved.
Jason? Yeah. Did anybody find any additions, errors? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes as 9-0. Next up, the work session a week ago, July 20th. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes? JB? Jeff? Was there anything in there that you found that was out of line? Good. All those in favor of approving? Thank you. 9-0. Next up, the Joint Advisory Committee reports from Recreation. We have Deborah.
Good evening. The Recreation meeting took place on July the 10th. All amenities were found to be in good condition with the following things noted. Over at Branchwood, one of the members mentioned how helpful Nicole, the rec center manager, had been a while back when they expressed concerns over an issue and how quickly she responded. It was recommended that we relocate the gate through which you enter the 4 pickleball courts on the west side so that it is in between the courts. As it stands now, it's kind of in the middle of a court, which can be a disruption during play, and there is a potential of a safety issue if someone gets hit. Over at Blowing Springs, it was mentioned that the register is printing 2 receipts for each transaction, and for those of you who've been out there, it's a long line, and that takes even longer. And we discovered very quickly that's very easily fixed, and I'm sure by now it has been resolved, so that was awesome. Over at Granton, there is a grill showing significant corrosion and reaching end of life. And at Lake Avalon, it was noted that the men's restroom is very warm and it most likely could be a situation with the ventilation not working properly. And the final comments made were over at Kingsdale Tennis. Courts 7 and 8 have dead spots in them, which means the ball won't bounce. And on the mini golf course, when you go to lay your ball on the tee for the little kids, there's a slope and it tends to roll. So it was recommended maybe putting a tee mat there so it would be a little bit easier for them. There was an interesting open discussion amongst the committee members that I want to share with you. So we started out talking about the success of Blowing Springs and the weekends and the music and everything and how great it is and what should we do, and we got all excited and what should we add and what can make it better. And then we said, wait a minute. If we keep adding to this, are we going to ruin the magic of Blowing Springs? And what can we look at and take from this? And as a committee, we said, we need to look at what our community is telling us, and they're clamoring for this type of thing. And maybe we look at other ways in the future of incorporating it into other areas rather than destroying the magic. So we just ask that everyone think about that as they look forward. We did nominate and elect our officers for the coming year. Myself, Deborah, was elected as chairman. Thank you. I will do my best. The vice chairman is Kathleen Coughlin, and the secretary will be Richard Taylor. Under staff reports, Rick just informed us about the amount of work that goes into the general maintenance for the lakes and the parks right now, and it's a lot. John talked to us about the attendance at the gun ranges, and that we did not meet June's numbers from last year because June was the record high ever, and we only missed it by 38. So next time we're all going, okay? And finally, among other things, one thing that Joan talked to us about was the youth triathlon over at Lake Avalon. And the youth triathlon is one of those events that, one of the few that we allow non-members to come and participate with our amenities. And it's our committee that approves those. And we generally approve them if they involve charity, they involve children, and they do not or absolutely minimally affect our members' access to the amenity. And I don't know how anyone could feel any more proud than to pick up that newspaper that week and see this. Honestly, you could feel this in your heart. And I think that this just shows us that we as a community are staying true to our roots of the beautiful nature here and the wonderful recreational amenities, but we're also moving forward on the wings of change, and we're encompassing our changing demographics, and we're moving forward in a very positive way that we should all be very proud of. Any questions or concerns?
Excellent report.
Thank you. Our next meeting is Monday, August the 14th at 4 p.m. here and live stream. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Next report will be Lakes. I believe Tom has that one.
Yeah, on behalf of the board chair, the committee chair, I'm going to report for the Lakes Committee. They elected their officers. The chair will be Matt Champagne again. Vice Chair, Michael Coughlin, and Secretary is Carol Phillips. Tom Judson conducted a brief committee training, which we do on an annual basis. A motion was unanimously approved, giving Rick Eccles and his team the okay to remove excessive buoys on our lakes in no wake areas. Goal to be in compliance with the U.S. Coast Guard recommendations and hopefully remove some of the confusion that is caused by the excessive buoys. POA Lake Rangers recently received a complaint regarding an electric surfboard. This is a gray area in the POA's rules and regulations. So the Lakes Committee appointed a subcommittee to research this and to offer potential new regulations or not. Rob Montgomery, Scott Hawes, Scott Sporoff, and Michael Coughlin all volunteered to serve on that subcommittee and to report back as soon as possible with the goal of if any additional regulations would be put into place, they would be put in place January 1st. The committee also discussed budget recommendations for 2024, and that is the conclusion of the Lakes Committee report.
Thank you, Tom. Next up is golf, Ruth Hatcher.
Okay, like what we met and elected new officers for next year. Hatcher will be chair, vice chair will be Dave Armstrong, and secretary Mark Neal, and we appreciate each of them. We introduced 3 new members, Jim Estes, Brad Lawrence, and Kimala Mullen, and they attended for their first meeting, which was very successful. Golf course operations, we had new facility review, kind of move people around to different facilities so they could look at something different for a change and report back, and so that'll start next month. Maintenance with key themes. Kingswood Care Day is August 10th, starting at 7:30 to 10 o'clock. They take care of divots on the fairways and greens, on the greens, and they need volunteers. So if you have anybody's available on August 10th, report to Kingswood about 7:30, and it'll be a short morning if we get a lot of help. Ballmark repair video is being made, working on the Highlands number 17 tee box. Hopefully it will open within the next 30 days. Collar repairs are on schedule and currently on progress. Daryl Muldoon with the golf operations. The golf rounds are up by their total is 26,355 for June, up 3,297 over last year, which is pretty darn good. Year to date, rounds are up to 93,203, up over 20,000 from last year, and we're talking July. So we've got a good year going, and we want to keep it going. Range buckets never cease to amaze me. They ended up 9,221, over 1,668 over last year. To date, 40,508 buckets have gone out. Daryl explained that something, see something, say something, the golf program concerning the rules of golf. Suspensions are now being proposed for memberships and guests for breaking the rules and regulations for the golf course. If you see something that's not right, please report it, and they'll take care of it. The warning or suspension for the first time, and Daryl will have the discretion whether it's a warning or a suspension. And the committee accepted and voted 100% to support the idea. Golf tournaments by Alex Sanford. Tournaments are full once again. All in the Family tournament has filled up. Parent-child tournament is August 5th. Once again, we're seeing more and more young people involved, and we love to see it. The men's club championship is now being signed or now being available to sign up. Tom Judson presented the golf advisory with its annual committee training session. Old Business Golf for Charity Challenge. It was a huge success. 45,500 was brought in. $3,888 was brought in with Sock It To Me, with 141 volunteers on the course to collect it. And that was simply going out and asking players to voluntarily give change or whatever they had, and that's quite an accomplishment. Tom Judson thanked Bella Vista Foundation for their contributions and all their help. We brainstorm ideas for the budget for 2024, and we'll be bringing those to our next meeting. And our next meeting will be Wednesday, August 9th at 4 o'clock here in the boardroom. Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Ruth.
Welcome.
Next on the agenda, we have the preliminary financial reports for the month of June.
I'm very pleased to present the financial overview for June, since it was a tremendous month and a tremendous year. We'll start with the consolidated year-to-date numbers, and then we'll break it down to the POA for the month, water for the month. Then we'll look at some of the key drivers and where we're at on cash and investments, and bring it all together with the one-pager. The consolidated year-to-date numbers include water and all POA activities. If you look at the left, the year-to-date revenue is $976,000 better than budget for the year, with $18,579,000 actual revenue compared to $17,604,000 budgeted. And that revenue goes right down to the EBITDA, with $901,000 better EBITDA year-to-date than budgeted, with $2.1 million actual EBITDA compared to $1.2 million budgeted. Next, we'll look at the POA only. This is without water for the month of June. I will say that for the POA, it is a record-setting month in revenue. Last month was a record-setting month, and this month is another record-setting month. For the month, the POA had $215,000 more revenue than budgeted, with $2.6 million actual revenue compared to $2.4 million budgeted. Year-to-date, the POA had $965,000 more revenue than budgeted, which is $13.3 million actual compared to $12.3 budgeted. That's nearly $1 million. The key drivers of that is recreation, food and beverage, and golf. On recreation, they had $24,000 more revenue budgeted for the month and $47,000 more year-to-date. Food and beverage had $90,000 more revenue for the month than budget, and $392,000 more than budgeted year-to-date. Golf had $98,000 more revenue budgeted for the month, and $431,000 better year-to-date. Looking at expenses for the POA, they did have $176,000 worse than budget, which was primarily in payroll and benefits, which was $94,000 worse than the budget, and the Trafalgar expense of $50,000 worse than budget. The divisions that had expenses better than budget for the month were maintenance and construction, accounting, general income and expenses. Worse than budget was golf operations with $66,000 worse than budget, food and beverage $60,000 worse than budget, and clubhouses $29,000 worse. But keep in mind, it was golf and food and beverage and recreation that had led all that increased income, so that's not too surprising. Next, we'll look at water for the month. For the month, water had $58,000 more revenue than budgeted, with $1.1 million in June, and year-to-date, $10,000 more revenue than budget, with $5.3 million year-to-date. Breaking that down, water sales is $16,000 worse than budget for the month and $45,000 worse than budget year-to-date. But new connections is $37,000 better than budget for the month and $19,000 better year-to-date. And capital buy-in fees is $43,000 better than budget for the month and $23,000 better year-to-date. Water's expenses for the month were $10,000 better than budget, with water distribution equipment and wages and benefits being slightly better than budget and meter supplies being slightly worse than budget. So we'll look at some of the key call-outs, some of the drivers of the revenue actual to budget. Food and beverage had year-to-date 112% of revenue compared to budget, 127% compared to prior year. Lake Point was almost at 100% of budget. They're only $18,000 short. And BV Bar and Grill had $1 million of year-to-date revenue compared to budget of $826,000. Highlands had $275,000 revenue year-to-date compared to $194,000 budgeted. And Gear Garden, $80,000 year-to-date compared to $42,000 budgeted, almost double. Looking at golf, their revenue year-to-date is 119% compared to budget and 121% compared to prior year. And golf was winners all the way around. Scottsdale, Taynard Creek, Metfield. Scottsdale was just over 100%. Taynard had actual revenue of $108,000. And Metfield had actual revenue for the year-to-date of $410,000, which is compared to budget of $315,000, almost $100,000 difference. Highlands had actual revenue of $370,000 year-to-date compared to $281,000. Kingsdale, $538,000 compared to $351,000. That's almost $190,000 variance. And Country Club, $492,000 compared to $302,000 budgeted, and that is $190,000 better. Recreation was also winners all the way around. The marina, campground, and tennis were all just over 100% of budget. Lakes and Parks had $257,000 in revenue year-to-date compared to $240,000 budgeted. Gun Range was 129% compared to budget, and Beach and Pools was 129% compared to budget. That looks weird. So with all that revenue, how does cash and investments look? Well, we are in a very strong, sound cash position, but even with all that revenue, we are feeling the effects of the capital projects, specifically the BVRC. But we're still strong with $3.6 million operating cash for the POA and $871,000 in POA reserves, and $2.9 million in operating cash for the water with $1 million set aside in reserves. So putting it all together in the one pager that shows the year-to-date EBITDA variances, you'll see that all the departments except 3 have year-to-date EBITDA better than budget, with golf operations leading the charge at $446,000 better than budget, general income $221,000 better than budget, recreation $130,000 better than budget, and golf maintenance $127,000 better than budget. Worse than budget was communications and marketing, legal, and clubhouses. But that all comes down to the POA with water being $1,117,000 better than budget year-to-date EBITDA. The water is $216,000 worse EBITDA. And the POA on the gross profit was $747,000 better than budget year-to-date. Expenses were $370,000 better than budget year-to-date, coming down to that $1.1 million better than budget. We are continuing to make payments each month on the water department loan. The POA is making those payments. The balance remains at $2,148,000. And I've already went through the cash with you, so that concludes my presentation. Any questions?
Do you expect water to be a little bit better because of the month we've had? I know personally I've used a heck of a lot more water in my house.
June was a better month, than the rest of the year, so it is working its way back. And yeah, I do suspect that July will be better as well.
Thanks, Beth.
Out of curiosity, go ahead.
Was there a particular reason for the legal expense?
Yeah.
As related to the settlement. So we had a lot of legal fees in preparation for the settlement. In coming months, so the $400,000 settlement has not been paid yet. Just signed the documentation yesterday. So you'll see in the next month or so, you'll see that going out also.
Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, no big deal. Clubhouses, what is that?
That is in some repairs and maintenance. If I remember right, yeah, I think it was mainly repairs and maintenance. Oh, and some, no, that was food and beverage. Yeah, repairs and maintenance that wasn't budgeted and some timing, I believe.
Okay, no big deal.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah. I looked that up, but I'm drawing a blank right now. All right.
Okay. That will bring us to the open forum session. It appears that we have 11 people signed up. First is Russ Turley. I remind you that you have 3 minutes. We ask that if previous speakers have pretty much covered the same topic as you, you're still welcome to speak, but we don't need to hear the same facts over and over. We had a number of emails come in, and the board has read those, so we're quite aware of what's going on with the trails. So, Mr. Turley, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Probably don't have to worry about much. She said that...
Speak into the mic, please, sir.
Yes, sir.
Great.
The young lady said that they allow things to happen with charity. Well, I have a question. There was an Ozark Mountain kayak, test your kayak, on Lake Ann. They had several hundred kayaks, not at the same time, on our lake. It interfered with boating, it interfered with parking and traffic. There was a mountain bike race that crossed at Trafalgar and Buckingham Trailhead. I had to wait 5 minutes for them to pass. They didn't stop. And the other thing is, there was an adventure race on Lake Ann, several hundred people participating, hundreds of canoes, I'm not exaggerating, and bikes. Now, did they pay fees? I can see letting charities go, anything for youth. But these people are using our facilities, and Ozark Mountain has done this every year we've been here. Do they pay a fee to use our lake and put their kayaks? And I have from a good source, my wife, and I better believe her, that the survey showed that 75% of the POA membership was against new trails. There was a suggestion made, beginners, work the new old ones into a beginner trail. And I'm out of time. I'm out of speech. I got lots of time.
Thank you, Mr. Turley. We will, Tom is writing this down, we will answer any questions that you have at the end. So next up is Jim Klinger.
I know we used to have to give our address when we talked before. Do we still do that?
Bassingham.
Bassingham. We know where you are. Yeah, you know where I live, I know. Just want to voice some support for the trails, and in addition, in particular, the beginner trails. When I came here, my mountain biking skills were significantly better than they are today due to the effects of aging, which I hope you're not all kind of getting those same things, but I suspect you may be. The beginner trails, I think, really will give a lot more opportunity for folks to get out there whose skills either aren't up to speed or whose skills are getting less, or in the case of some family members of mine, can't really get out and even hike on the technical trails. The beginner trails really, I think, are an excellent way for our community to be able to get out and enjoy what we have in this community, and do it safely, and do it, away from traffic, do it away from crowds, and enjoy what we have in this beautiful community. And I really hope that the board looks at those trails and says that they want to approve them. So, thanks.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Amy Darpinian, Lerwick Lane.
Good job with my name. We visited Bella Vista several times with our family over the years and loved it so much that we've invested and purchased a home on Lerwick Lane. Just 1 year, it'll be 1 year in like 2 more weeks. I'm so excited about that. In particular, my husband enjoys the beautiful golf courses, me not so much. But we both love our beautiful trails with our doggies, and we've really enjoyed exploring all the different areas of Bella Vista. And we're actually the healthiest we've been in our whole lives. So please vote in favor of the trails.
Thank you. Michelle from Clevedon Circle. I'm not even going to try the last names anymore.
Oh, it's okay. Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm a new resident. We moved here in March, and my partner and I are starting a nonprofit here, and we have started a nonprofit here in Bella Vista. Not here to talk about that today, but I am here to talk about the trails. Because for me, I've cycled a lot of my life, and one of the things that's happened to me here is the trails are a little too advanced for me. And I do bike down in other areas where they have easier trails, but until I get used to the terrain, I've been hiking them. And so I'm speaking in support of the beginner trails, and the trails here are just absolutely amazing. If I were to be in some of the trails, I would think I'm in Lake Tahoe or in some of the high-end resorts around the United States. They're done so well. They're so masterfully crafted. And so I would hope that whatever types of trails, there's a higher percentage of intermediate to beginner trails that are added, because the loops that are here already are a little advanced for little old me. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Michelle from Cary Place.
Thank you for your time. I'm also here in favor of the trails. There's been some good comments already, so I won't repeat them about the beginner trails. So I do agree that they're needed. We do have a lot of people at advanced levels coming. I'm one of the members of one of the 3 hiking groups that are within Bella Vista. And I'm also in favor of the connectors. Many of our trails, the back 40 as well as Little Sugar, are long trails, so the hikers can't go out and hike that distance. If we have the connectors in it, it allows us to do more hiking on the smaller portions and get more people out there, because a lot of people won't come out there if it's a hike 7 or 8 miles. So if we have a connector that can make it shorter, we'll get a lot more people out there that are able to join and stay active and healthy in our community.
Thank you. Next is Jay Barton, Melanie Drive.
Thanks for the moment. I'm also speaking in support of the trails. 5 years ago when we retired here, 3 years before that, we started looking around Fayetteville and really wanted to be around Fayetteville. And then we started feeling the crowds and stuff and houses selling before they ever went on the market. And we came to Bella Vista, thought it's beautiful, but it's kind of far from Fayetteville. And then we experienced the traffic in Rogers and Bentonville and the traffic in Bella Vista, and we thought, and I said, wherever we be, I want to be near these trails we've got up here. So that's one of the reasons I came here 5 years ago. And I hiked every mile of the back 40 in the first year I was here. And I bicycled a little of them, and I bicycled some of the beginner trails like people were talking about, and Snowbird and Tweety Bird are awesome for warming up. Anyway, there was a comment about animal life. And I want to tell you, from my experience, animals love our trails. I'm also a trail adopter. I think the first 2 years I was an adopter, I put in over 250 hours on the trails. It's so common to see deer and other wildlife using our trails. Yesterday I rode, and I think I saw 17 deer. And they were all close to the trails. They'd move off as I went by. They'd come back after I went on through. And we all have the right to explore our common ground, as I understand the POA rules. And it's a lot safer for us to explore it on trails that are designed for that purpose. It keeps us in those spots and leaves the rest of the woods alone. And if you look at our trails, if you've ever hiked them, there's very few trees cut. You have to weave through and go through some gaps that you have to kind of work your handlebars through if you're on a bike on some of them, because they try to leave everything as much as they can in a pristine condition. And you can be on those trails and feel like you're miles from nowhere until you hear somebody's wind chime up there above you. They're just wonderful and a great asset to the community.
Thank you. And thank you for your service on the maintenance of the trails. We really do appreciate that. Next up is Chris from Ravenglass.
Good evening, everybody. I'm also a trail adoption adopter. We work on the trails, and I don't have as many hours as the other gentlemen, but I'm trying to catch up. Anyway, the TAP program is led by the Trailblazers, and on their behalf, I just wanted to share some facts about the Carvana Neighborhood Connector Trail. So it's going to have smaller loops, so that's going to be more beneficial for hikers and runners who have been looking for smaller loops rather than doing a whole 20 miles of a back 40, for example. It's going to have beautiful scenery, potentially the best scenery from the rock formations and everything that are in all of Bella Vista. The proposed trail is not an advanced skill trail. It will be an intermediate version like the tunnel vision system. Each end will be connected to existing trails. Trailblazers will convert the upper portion of the technical difficulty trail, which is on the very north end of the system, to an intermediate skill trail. So it'll be accommodating for more users as an easier trail. This will become a go-to spot for hikers because of the scenery. This is a special place that needs to be shown off to everybody. This trail will relieve, in fact, some pressure on the Tanyard Creek system, it is felt. Trailblazers owns 3 lots that will be donated to the POA preservation as a part of this project, if approved. And the Trailblazers has multiple trail easements in place for the properties that they do not own. So those are just some facts that Trailblazers wanted to have expressed on a new connector. And my personal expression about a request for approval here is a quick refresher on some of the responses from the community feedback survey of 2021. In a question about the frequency of facilities use, restaurants came in as number one. But I could see that point. But when we're not eating, the combination of people hiking and walking on trails was the number one category. And that was 64% greater than the second place category, which was lake usage. And I'm getting all these numbers and facts from our internet site from the 2021 report. So if this project and all these trails within it are approved, it's going to increase the diversity of our system. It's going to accommodate more users and get our community better connected. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Chris. Next up, and I apologize.
I can just say it.
From Deddington.
Yes, my name is Rajat Paharia.
Rajat.
I've been visiting Bella Vista every summer for a couple of weeks for the last 15, probably some odd years, to visit my in-laws, Larry and Peggy Pfeiffer. And every year I go home and dream of the trails. And so finally this last year we ended up buying a house, and as of Saturday have moved here. And one of the things with the beginner trails that we're really excited about is something that we can do with the whole family. My 3 kids, grandma, all of us can go do those, whereas the more advanced trails, it's a lot harder to do that for everyone. And while I'm still trying to convince grandma to get on a bike, at least she can hike all these trails right now. So I just wanted to put in my vote of support and say that the trail system here was one of the key reasons that we ended up making the move. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, and thank you for saving me. Next up is Marcus from Nottingham.
Hello, thank you for the time. Chris kind of stole my thunder about the Caverna connector. I think that's just going to be amazing. I don't know if you haven't seen pictures from the view there, looking north. Let me know. I can show you after the meeting. It is just gorgeous. And the biggest point I think that he had on there was that it's going to relieve the pressure of Tanyard Creek. So recently we had a big group of friends and their kids come in town, and we're like, well, let's go take them hiking. Let's go to Tanyard Creek. And it was over Memorial Day weekend, which was a mistake. Like, we looked through all our pictures. You cannot find one picture without a dozen other people, random, any direction you look. You can't take a picture without people behind you. Relieving that will be great. The views up there are probably the best in this area. You'd have to go to Ponca to see some cool views like that. And I think that's all I want to say. I think he covered everything about Caverna.
Thank you. Names up, James, and no street is listed.
That's because I own a lot of lots. So I didn't want to list them all out. Thank you for having me. So we've obviously heard a lot of support of the actual trails and what's being proposed, but what I want to put on the table for the board to consider is the most recent economic impact study that was done, that bicycling brings $159 million to this region. And I believe a big part of that and the recreation that's being used is in Bella Vista, but you guys don't get your fair share of the revenue from that. And because of that, everyone's staying in Bentonville and driving up here to use your facilities and your trails. A lot of that is, I'm sure, on the docket and plans for a 10-year future of what Bella Vista has planned to meet that need of hotels and more restaurants and more places for us mountain bikers. When the $159 million are spent, a lot of it's more is being spent in Bella Vista. The key piece to that is connectivity. If you don't have the connectivity and you don't have the green level trails, which these trails that are on the docket are the start of that, it's not the finish to it, it's the start. If you don't have that connectivity, you're not going to get the people staying here, you're not going to get them frequenting here. But it has to start somewhere. And the worst thing that I want to see this board do is say no to trails and then in 5 years say, oh, we want more trails. You got to start now. More trails, more trails, more trails in the spirit of connectivity. I know Trailblazers is certainly in alignment with that. They're an ally. They should be supported. about all I have to say.
Thank you. And the last person who has signed up to speak, Brent from Blakeney.
That's correct. Thank you. Well, yes, I'm Brent Steinspring, and thank you all for being here. Ruth, good to see you again. I am a former chairman of the POA's Recreation Joint Advisory Committee. At that time, the results from a community-wide member input survey showed that trails were the #1 amenity sought by Bella Vista residents. From 2008 to 2012, we worked as a recreation committee to answer that call. We began with the Blowing Springs Trails proposal that was unanimously approved by the POA Board of Directors. It was so well received, in fact, that we were then tasked with creating a master trail plan for Bella Vista as a collaborative effort between the city of Bella Vista and its residents. We held multiple public input sessions at Reardon Hall, where we placed large maps of Bella Vista on the tables, and we set out markers and pens, and people were asked to mark up those maps with the areas they most wanted to see trails and to identify the items of concern, consideration, and importance. The two most supported themes that were connectivity, that we've heard frequently already, and diversity. People wanted our trails to connect to the areas of the greatest desirability. We've heard a lot about the scenic vistas, our parks, our lakes, and other trails. People also wanted our trails to connect efficiently and safely, requiring trail types for all different trail users. The additional trails proposed today achieve those exact goals, which is why I hope you will not delay in offering your full support. I'm also the current president of our local IMBA chapter mountain bike club called Friends of Arkansas Single Track. We host weekly mountain bike rides and cater to all levels of riders. One of the greatest compliments people continually have about our trail network is how diverse our trails are. They love that they can be here with their families and friends and have people of all kinds of different interests and skill sets, and everybody can find exactly what they're looking for, from beginner trails to the most challenging. What people often love about the technical trails, whether on foot or on bike, is the scenic areas that they take you through, so these are equally important to support as well. Thank you for your time and dedication to our community, and I hope you see the benefits of these proposed trail additions and vote in favor for adding all of them to our outstanding trail network. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of the list that we have. I'd like to thank all of you for coming and supporting your cause, taking your turn to speak. Tom, did you have any comments, answers to any questions that were posed?
The comment about the kayak demo day, and the other events, just be aware that for all events that include non-members, for example, the kayak demo day, we had the kids fishing day at Metfield, those types of things. All of those individual events must be approved by one of our joint advisory committees, either the Lakes Committees, the Rec Committee, and so forth. I would venture to say that part of the steady increase in the number of kayaks that are registered in our community is directly as a result of the kayak demo day. So while it is a very busy day, the vast majority of the people that are attending that event are members, and it does benefit. But if the gentleman would like to speak with me directly more on that, you can email me, or you can speak with me after the meeting. I'd be happy to do that. Thank you to everybody for all your comments regarding the trails that are going to be under consideration. And I wanted to echo David's comments about the appreciation of how many people volunteer within our community. In total, changing gears just a little bit, in total the board received 36 emailed comments about the proposed trails. 31 of those were for and 5 were against. So quite a number. I want to emphasize that the board read all of these. So while we're not reading this large stack, that would take a large amount of time. The board did read all of them and did consider them. It's important. And finally, we did receive one email where the individual asked the email to be read. And this is from Mayor John Flynn. And he wrote, the Bella Vista City Administration is in favor of all 7 of the proposed enhanced additions to the Back 40 and Little Sugar trails that will be presented at the POA meeting this evening. The proposed changes include more beginner and intermediate trails and shorter loops. which are needed and have wide support among the general population. Thank you for your consideration. And he also apologized. He had a separate meeting at the exact same time, so he was unable to attend. So that's from Mayor Flynn, and that is all of the comments on it that were submitted by property owners.
Okay. In a slight deviation from the printed agenda, we are going to skip over 2 rather boring subjects and go right to the 7 trail proposals. Tom, do you have the presentation? Okay.
Absolutely.
You get to see some of the pictures up there on the Caverna.
For those that viewed last week's work session, this is going to be the exact same presentation, so I do apologize. I may bore you. This presentation was prepared by the Trailblazers, and they asked me to present it for today's meeting. 286,833, that's the number of trail uses in all of 2020. This is actually a refined number from last week. It's down by about 10,000. But of note is only about 50% of our trails have trail counters. So this is a low number no matter what. Wanted to give an update regarding some of trail projects that were previously approved by the Board of Directors and by the city. This is always a joint effort between, for the maintenance and upkeep of our trails is between the POA and the city. And so the Back 40 71B parallel, you can see that in the yellow line is the proposed, or actually the trail that they're working on, and the red is the existing. And it follows along 71, and it will be 2 miles in length. It'll go behind shredders or whatever they're going to be calling themselves.
Oh, don't even start.
Foxtail. Yeah, I heard that the other day. Foxtail. And BV Museum. And so that will be hopefully completed in the fall of 23. Snowbird has already been completed. My wife and I took the dogs out, and we had a great walk on that. Nice flat trail, very wide. It's an adaptive trail, so that's really nice. They added a water hydrant there and added a nice parking lot. You can see that on the bottom, and there's quite a bit of artwork along the way. So if you have some time, that's a great trail to go on. The Bluebird Park, they've made great progress. The gravel parking lot is in, the tunnel is in, the pavilion is in. The treehouse, if you've gone by there recently, they're working on that right now. That's going to be a really nice addition for the kids. And it's supposed to be completed by the end of summer. They're also going to install a water hydrant and a changing station, one of those things on the left, which allows you to come in maybe after work and you go get changed in the changing station instead of the car, which is always a good thing. And here's a view of the treehouse, which they're working on as we speak. And then the Manchester Tunnel will make a safe crossing of Manchester Road, so that's a really nice addition, and that is going to be completed before the end of this year. Blowing Springs 2, so you see the green line in this case. This is going to be an extension of the trail, the concrete trail that is already in place, which starts at Blowing Springs, goes by the Gear Garden. Chris, do you know where the Gear Garden is? Chris, are you aware where yeah, because I run into you all the time there. And then it heads all the way north up Trafalgar, and they're going to try and put it in a parking lot at the very end there. And then just keep in mind, this little end spot is going to come up later on in the presentation, so just kind of remember that spot. They're about 30% complete on design. And then the Razorback Greenway, we're looking at the green line here. They're going to be completing that bridge fairly soon, and this will connect. Here's Allen's right here, and it goes along the creek, misses the rookery for the birds, and comes over here. And then this white path right there is the existing path that has already been installed. And then this area is the parking lot that's already been installed. So it's going to integrate. It'll be a 12-foot wide concrete path, and so you can start at that location right behind Casey's, and you can go all the way south, all the way to Fayetteville. So that's really impressive. And the 60% design complete. All right, so there originally was 8 trails proposed, but up for consideration is 7 of them. I want to point out on the bottom here, you'll see that these are all the trails of a pie chart of all the trails in northwest Arkansas, and you'll see that a lot of them, 16% are black, which is very difficult. 71% is more difficult, which is the blue, and 13% is easy. They don't have an intermediate rating in there. I wish they had that, but it definitely indicates that it skews heavily towards challenging. The back 40 in particular, the terrain, the natural terrain in that area just makes it challenging, the trails. You'll notice, so all the stars are the proposed locations, and you'll see that it's spread out fairly evenly between the back 40 and Little Sugar. So we're now going to go into each one of them individually. And there they are. So there's the 7, and let's jump right in. So this is the Kingsdale Loop. Here's Kingsdale, and the pools are right here, the tennis courts and so forth. And we have the red trail right here, and then a red trail right here. But to get from this section to that section is a 1.75 mile ride, and it's rather hilly. It's only a quarter-mile jump from one to the other. So what we're looking at is getting across the parking lot and then connecting. The Trailblazers have received permission from the different property owners. Like Brewtown owns this section, and the Townhouse Association, so forth. It'll make it a lot easier. This is this proposal, or is that we're still working with the Trailblazers on the best way, if safest way to get across the parking lot. So the proposal is about the construction here, and then giving the management team permission to work with the Trailblazers on the best and easiest and safest way to get across the parking lot. But it'll bridge that gap and really make a much better experience. All right, so this is Pinion Creek. So we're on the east side of the community, and this is the little tip of Lake Ann. So if that helps navigate you, we already have this beginner trail in green is already in place, and then in yellow you see that we would add. The proposal is to add this, which would then create, if you put the yellow up on top, you got a really nice beginner loop, and great trail for walking, running, and sightseeing, family friendly, easy access. And remember earlier when I was talking about the concrete trail that would go up in Trafalgar, and then it would terminate, and then they would add this little spur right here that would connect to the red, but that would not be an easy section. That would be a very steep area. Kind of a nice beginner trail, and we have a good parking spot right here that is already pre-existing right next to the tip of Lake Ann. The next one is the Mulligan Beginner Loop. And so this is on the far east side once again. So let's pop back to right there. So far east side. And here is number 4 golf hole. And we already have the red trail in place, and this is a yellow trail that goes all the way around. And this would be beginner oriented. It would be a 1.5 mile loop. What we did find from the member survey is that having easy looping trails is very appealing to a lot of people. And in this area where there's a big ravine, they're looking to install a suspension bridge, which would be a really neat keynote draw to the area. And I had conversations recently, as of this morning, about adding some additional features, potentially a dog park in this area. So they're considering that. We have a dog park on the west side. We've received a lot of requests for a dog park on the east side. That might be a neat place where you could park, go on the hike with your dog, use the dog park. Maybe there's a pavilion, maybe even a hammock park. So they're considering that. And Mike had suggested that was a suggestion Mike had made, and it spurred that. The next one is the Lago Vista Beginner Trail. This is Lake Avalon right here. So this is in the central portion of our community. There's the beach right here. And we have an existing green trail with a parking spot here and a parking spot here. And this would create a loop. So this green trail, combine that with this yellow, and then you have a 1.5 mile loop that's beginner oriented, and it's in the center portion of our community. We have a parking lot at the Assembly of God over here on the west side. It would be family friendly. You could even walk up to retail and commercial. All right, Wentworth. So over time, we've received a lot of requests from property owners where they want to have connectors directly from their home to existing trails. We actually have one right over here. This is the Tavistock connector. That was a request several years ago from the community in that area. And this is a request from the Wentworth. It would be fairly steep. Anytime you see a lot of zigzagging in a short amount of space, you know it's steep. It would be a 1.5 mile trip or trail, which would get you to Bluebird. And here's once again the Bluebird area, and this is where the treehouse is going to be going. So it would be very close.
Hey, Tom, just quick clarity right there. I know you said from their house, but I think what you meant to say is from that neighborhood. Yeah, because this isn't for any individual property owner, it's for the entire neighborhood to access.
You are absolutely correct. All right. We received a couple comments today regarding the caverna. And this is all in yellow. This is in the central portion of our community. Here is Little Sugar right here. Here's 279. Here's the Missouri border. And here is Arkmo all the way over to the west. And you'll see that the yellow trail would connect that. It would be an intermediate trail, as was reported. And then the upper section of the trail, which is currently difficult, would be downgraded or improved to make it intermediate, so that would make it easier. Smaller loop for hikers and runners. We had that referenced during the public session. And connects tunnel vision, which is over on this side, with the Arkmo. It kind of, they called it connecting two loose ends and connecting those two. The scenery would be outstanding. And there's some of the pictures of the scenery in that area. And then this is the Southwest Chelsea. So if you've ever gone along along Chelsea, there's that trailhead right here. This is a very underdeveloped portion of our community. You can look at the map and you can see there's very few homes. And if you actually look closer at some of these roads, they actually haven't been paved yet. So while on county GIS it shows that there's a lot of roads in that area, there's actually not. So this would be a great hiking area, nice looping trail. So once again, looping trails, because people want to do 2 and 3 and 4 mile loops when they're hiking. They don't want to do 10 in most cases. This is one of the proposed trails that was tabled by the board of directors. This is Lake Ann. This is the opposite end of Lake Ann, the west end of Lake Ann. But that has been tabled. And there was a reference earlier to the trail adopters. We have in total, according to the Trailblazers, 385 trail adopters. So I really appreciate that. All of us appreciate that. And in 2022, they donated 13,000 hours. So Chris, you got to pick up the pace a little bit there. Okay. But really appreciate it. And I also like seeing how it's all spread out all around the map. So it's really helping us out, and it's keeping the cost of the trails down. And on the subject of cost, this is the estimated cost of the trails of all of these projects put together, $2.5 million, which would be 100% funded by the Trailblazers, which is outstanding. In total, the Trailblazers have donated about $25 million worth of trails to our community. Next steps, the board would vote on this. And if approved, then it would go to the city council for them to vote. I'm sorry, we would actually, the POA and the city would work together, the respective attorneys, to put together the agreement, and then that would be voted upon by the city council. There is a little bit of spur to action. They would like to start some of this work in October. Because a lot of the really good trail builders are working up north, and come October starts snowing and they move south, and we can capture those teams and have them working on it. So a little bit of a call to action. And that is the presentation. And this presentation will be made available on our website.
So with that presentation, I would entertain a motion for the Kingsdale Cutoff Connector, and then we can get our discussion started. This is the second to the last page.
I'll make a motion to approve the Kingsdale Connector.
Okay, and that's with the understanding that the Trailblazers and POA management will continue to work together on the safest means of crossing the Kingsdale parking lot. Safety was the thing that we talked about the most in that. You got to get people to cross the parking lot. So is there a second on that, JB? Okay, now, further discussion.
Well, I'm for this. I was for it before. The challenges we all had was the direction they were going across when shotguns in the cart path. So I know we pushed back on the Trailblazer team. I think there's a way to make this work, so I appreciate them working with us, and I'm all for it.
Thank you.
I just have one thing to say, just to make members aware that are watching at home and out there in the crowd, where the proposed trail is here at Kingsdale. Some people may not realize that that's also where BV Recreational Center is being redeveloped over there, so there's actually quite a hub there. It's not actually viewed in this picture, but huge project going on there, as well as a new Bella Vista POA restaurant will be going in there. So some of that capturing of the dollars that Mr. Maddox mentioned earlier, we feel like we can capture them here in this one.
And the Bella Vista Rec Center, used to be called Reardon Hall, hoping to be done in November. So another reason. This is a hub of activity. So other comments?
David,
Jackie.
I'd like to make a comment. And I'll make a comment on this trail, and then this applies to all of the trails. So I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that some of the members love the trails and some of the members do not. Many of the members say, well, let's take the free money. But I just want to remind everyone that this does not come without cost. And part of that cost is opening our common property up to the public, which can bring a lot of different things, some good, some bad. I think they've seen some problems on the trails down in Fayetteville, one of the members was telling me, with drugs and homeless people and whatnot. And I will say that we do have several beginning trails already. The Rellington Trail was a beginning trail that's just been finished. As well as the Bluebird Trail and the extension of the Razorback Trail. Again, all beginning trails, all great places for people to walk. So I can't say that we don't have some beginning trails. And there are other members that just feel that we have enough. People were mentioning the 2021 survey that was done, and out of the 12,000 people that responded, 69% said that we do have enough trails. So I just have to speak up for them and say that there are members that feel we have enough. And the last thing that I have to say is that I'm not so sure that we should be voting on these this evening. The members only had the work session to hear about these trails. And as we know, there are far more people that watch the board meeting than watch the work session. There was nothing even in the Vista this past week about these 7 trails. So I have to believe that a number of people that will be affected by these trails going behind their homes don't even realize it yet. And if they're watching the board meeting this evening, they're not going to have an opportunity to respond. So, as you know, I am opposed to the trails.
Okay, other comments?
I'll make my comment on this one and save my comment on the others when they're, because this is a connector trail. We'll talk about beginner later, but I'm certainly in favor of this, the carrying Jerry's proxy. And my concern, I guess I'd just like a little clarification about understanding that the Trailblazers and POA management will continue to work for the safest means, because Jerry and I both are in agreement that even though Daryl had a better idea than what currently is on the picture about going through the landscape median, that we both are still of the opinion to pull it back towards the rec center. And if the traffic's not heavy, sure, they're going to cut through like Aaron was telling us, but we just feel like on the times there's tournaments, that sort of thing, that even if you don't have it on the parking lot, have it on a dedicated median, you're still asking for carts and cars and trailers and bikers all to be in one place. We're both strongly in favor of this, but we do want to have some input in where that crossing to go over to the connector is put.
Well, the good thing about this particular trail in terms of, you know, are people aware of it or not? Trailblazers has already gotten the license agreements and the easement agreements from the property owners here and the Townhouse Association. Right. So we know for sure that these folks are excited about it and have already given their agreement.
Any others? I will call.
Do we need to restate the, sorry.
No.
Do we need to restate the motion?
I will.
Well, yeah, okay, perfect. Go ahead.
The motion approving the proposed Kingsdale cutoff connector with the understanding that the Trailblazers and POA management will continue to work together on the safest means of crossing the Kingsdale parking lot.
Perfect.
That, okay. With that, I will call for the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Sandy is opposed. 8-1. Next up, the Pinion Creek Beginner Loop. A motion?
I make a motion approving the proposed Pinion Creek Beginner Loop.
Thank you.
Second.
Jackie?
Jackie.
Any comments on this one?
I have a comment. My comments really are for this and the others that we're considering. We have a wonderful trail system in place right now that we should be proud of, but it can be enhanced with 2 things. One, access through connectors that will allow better use of these wonderful trails. So some of these are about access and connectors. And the other comment and the others we have are about having, again, it's access, the ability for more people to be able to take advantage of these wonderful trails and loops through more beginner, something I could actually get on and make it through and survive. And I think that there's a real need for that. I think we've heard a call out for that. So I just wanted to make kind of a global comment about the rest of them for the saving a little time. But I think these are wonderful additions that will enhance what we already have in place.
Jackie?
I agree 100% on what Jan said. I have a vested interest in this one personally because it's close to my home, and not because of age. It's not like with Jim where my skills have degraded. They've never gotten there. And I can walk some of the trails around there, but I can't bike them. But I would be super excited to be able to actually get on the dirt bike I have and be able to stay on it and not have to get off and on some of the switchbacks and stuff. So definitely agree with you 100% on the beginner is what's, even though Sandy's point, we do have some paid beginner and dirt beginner. As a beginner mountain bike rider, there's not enough in our area. I have to put it on my truck and go somewhere to do it, to enjoy it. So we need more.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the Pinyon Creek Beginner Loop? 8. Opposed? Sandy is opposed. A motion about the Mulligan Beginner Loop.
I'll be happy to. I'll make a motion to approve the proposed Mulligan Beginner Loop.
Thank you. Second by JB. Comments?
This is to kind of who this impacts and who it doesn't impact. This is one of those really awesome little areas that was identified that the POA had that really isn't developed because of the terrain, and being able to kind of see that happen there. I feel like Brighton has very few folks on there, and Metfield's on the other side of it, and there's kind of county estates to the east of it. So it's really in a prime spot to kind of have low impact to folks that may or may not want a trail close by to them, but still provide like a great feature, because the suspension bridge they're talking about, I don't know if anybody's been out and seen the little sugar bridge, but it's quickly becoming an icon of the city. So I feel like I trust Trailblazers' ability to kind of come through on another cool bridge there.
I like the addition that, I guess you brought it up or whatever, of the dog park or something, because that is something that's definitely needed over there. And that, again, it just enhances the membership and this area, of course.
And to be clear, I don't have any commitment on that.
I get it, the idea. Yeah,
They were very open-minded to it, but no commitment on that.
Meaning something else in that area.
Correct.
Insert X, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this dog park on the east side is something that we've been looking for a long time. And if it's possible here, it'll be very warmly received. So we'll work on that. I know the Trailblazers have been a very good group to work with, so keep your fingers crossed. Okay, all those in favor of the Mulligan Beginner Loop? Opposed? Sandy is opposed. Next up is the Lago Vista West Beginner Loop. A motion? Jeff?
I move that we approve the proposed Lago Vista West Beginners Loop.
Thank you. Second on that? Jason. Any comments or questions on this one?
Yeah, this is another one of those areas of Bella Vista's topography is quite interesting. We all know that, but the areas that we can really make the beginner loops happen in where the existing old creek lines were before they dammed them all and created the lake. So those low folds like that are already in flood zones that couldn't be plotted and couldn't be turned into housing lots are prime for this. So kudos to continuing to identify those areas. And you're so right, the beach is awesome. But it would be even cooler if you could do a little walk around it like Tweety Bird and come back to it. So this is a prime example of getting it right, looking at the map, and understanding where you can make an impact. Really like this one.
Yeah, this little loop, I've been back in that area, and to get back in there, I mean, it's wild. I mean, you don't see anything back there but trees and bushes.
And deer.
And deer. Don't forget the deer. We have quite a number of deer in Bella Vista. Okay, all those in favor of the Lago Vista West Beginner Loop? Opposed? Sandy is opposed. Next up is the Wentworth Neighborhood Connector, one requested by our membership.
I'll make a motion approving the proposed Wentworth Neighborhood Connector.
Thank you. Jeff is a second on that. Is there any comments on this one?
Yeah, I got a comment. Mainly, I hope that this example helps ward off people building rogue trails in their backyards. I know it's hard to resist the temptation to get down to those areas, but the more that neighborhoods can come together and identify a common area and a common access zone and stop kind of making whatever you want to make and oftentimes in 100% in common property, it's just a no-no, and we frown upon that. So more neighborhoods take notice of this. This is the path forward to continuing to connect to the trails, not making individual trails in your backyard.
You are correct that we wish to discourage individual property owners from making their own trail to the established trail. They're not trail builders. The trail builders employed by the Trailblazers Association know what they're doing. They build trails to control erosion and to make them safe to traverse. Some of the rogue trails I've seen connecting to backyards, I wouldn't ride on them. But that's just me. So anyway, other comments? Jan?
I just want to follow up with what Mike said. This is an example of a community who's done it right. They're to be commended because they saw a need, and rather than doing what you've seen, they went through the proper procedures, and they have banded together as a community to bring this about. And I feel very comfortable supporting them, just as you said, because they've gone about this in the right way. It's going to support the whole neighborhood, and it'll avoid the kind of things that we don't want to see that could be liabilities for everybody.
Yeah, there's that big L word. People need to think about that. Okay.
One other I think is a very positive thing. In Bella Vista, we can't have sidewalks. We just can't. This is our sidewalk. Mm-hmm. This is our way to get places through neighborhoods and around. This is our version of sidewalks.
Thank you. Jason?
Ditto those three comments. And the additional comment would be from me, when a whole neighborhood gets together and pulls together and presents something, it's a no-brainer, kind of what you said. And it just goes to show the support and the growth that this is having and the love that the community is having for this system, this trail system. So all for this one.
Yeah, as we get a few years into this trail experiment, whatever, we find that people suddenly discover, the homeowners discover that the trails are not disruptive to their normal everyday activities, and they come to embrace them, and they want a trail in their neighborhood too. So they want what everybody else has got. With that said, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of the Wentworth Neighborhood Connector? 8. Opposed? Sandy is opposed. The Caverna Neighborhood Connector, the spectacular one. A motion on that?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we approve the Caverna connector.
Thank you. JB. Okay, discussions on this one.
I'll start. I took to heart the reminder of the survey we had, and I felt like I'm all for connectors and beginning trails, and I had a little bit of trouble with this one looking at it as a connector beginning wise, but it is a connector. But I guess when I looked at the survey, more bike trails on who we surveyed was definitely a no. More hiking was a no, but not as strong. And then the walking, actually, when you do the numbers of just the walking, it was almost a 50-50 to have more walking. And then when you really analyzed it back in 21, and I think Tom pointed this out before, that the average age of the survey takers is older than the average age of our community. And it continues to change. And I think that even though it's a survey and we need to take it for what it's worth, giving us feedback, but we can't say verbatim, this is the right answer. So I think that looking back at the survey, I feel comfortable with, if it's a walking trail, that's what people, especially in the focus groups, want. And in the survey, we're leaning a lot towards almost a 50-50. So asked Aaron Rushing more questions afterward, and Chris, you answered the same questions on this trail, a lot of questions and a lot of positive with this. And I'm probably more excited about this one than I am on the others that came up after I learned more about it. So I'm super excited for this one and appreciate the input of those who know the area better and certainly support it.
Great call out, Jackie. Thank you for doing that extra research.
JB.
And well, I just wanted to say that in 2 years ago now, it was a totally different time. In the last couple of years, the influx of the new folks to our area, I feel if we did that survey again, it would look a lot different, because we have a lot of folks here now who moved here for that very reason.
One Saturday.
Woohoo! So I just feel like, yes, surveys are important, but that was not a really good, especially in today's world, thing to go by to make a decision.
Thank you.
Well, one exciting thing that we learned about this one is that Trailblazers would be dedicating over an acre of their own property to a conservation kind of piece of that. Love to continue to look at how that becomes an ability for more of our community members to do, who may not want to develop their lots but do the same thing.
Okay. Jackie?
I know we get 2 shots. I meant to say about the comment about Tanyard and you take pictures. And I did go to Tanyard, and my daughter had engagement pictures taken, and nobody was in the background. But it was in December, 13 degrees, and it was snowing. I think that's probably, so I agree that to have alternate beautiful terrain also would be a nice thing, besides let people know there is something besides families can go to besides Tanyard. I think is a very good point out.
That being said, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of the Caverna Neighborhood Connector? 8 opposed? Sandy is opposed. The 7th proposal today, Southwest Chelsea Hiking Multi-Use Trail. Can we have a motion on that one?
I'll get it done. Make a motion approving the proposed Southwest Chelsea Hiking Multi-Use Trail.
Thank you. Jan seconds that one. Okay. Any discussion on this, Jeff?
This one is the easiest one of all for me. I mean, there's the impact to possibly, what, 2, 3 homes possibly. I think it'd be wonderful, and it might even help draw development to that area that's been neglected since my mother owns a home in that area that she's owned since the late 70s. So a lot. I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Other comments? I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Sandy is opposed. That being said, we have approved the 7, and I just have to make a comment. You know, how lucky are we that we live here and we have an organization that has given us $25 million worth of trails. I mean, wow. It's any chance you get, thank the Trailblazers and the people who sponsor them. They've done tremendous good. Okay, that's the interesting part of the meeting. The next part has to do with an emergency capital project waiver request for a Metfield maintenance irrigation pump, golf course pump that went down. The pump has been replaced already. It's not a lot of money, but it is over our threshold for a capital project, so we have to vote on it to approve it retroactively. So, can I have a motion on that one?
I move that we approve the emergency capital project for a pump replacement costing $11,900.
Thank you.
Mike or Mike, either Mike or I, either one.
Mike and Jason.
I'll third.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a lot of discussion about this. All those in favor? 9-0. The next one up is a request from a home builder for a septic system at 11 Scalloway Circle. There have encountered problems in the build and are requesting permission to traverse POA common property to put the septic leach field on a different lot. As you can see in the packet, there are, 12 or 13 pages of documentation. It is a very lengthy process according to our policies, and every policy has been followed, and everything we've asked to have done has been done. So it's time for us to make a motion on this to either approve or disapprove, and I would ask for that motion. Jason?
I was going to ask discussion, but we need to make a motion first, right?
Motion first.
Yeah. I'll make a motion. I got to get my eyes on, sorry. Make a motion to request for 11 Scalloway Circle to traverse common property and allow installation of a septic system on a nearby lot.
A second on that? Jeff, I should mention that Director Pertillo has recused herself from the discussion and the vote. You're abstaining?
We're abstaining.
Okay, she's abstaining.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, sorry.
Now we have, the motion is on the table.
What I was going to say before I made the motion was, and I know Count Doug's not here, obviously. He's enjoying a vacation somewhere, I'm sure. But he's gone through all this, and again, to your point, everything's been followed to the T. It's a bad situation. It's an unfortunate situation. And I know we have, as a board, discussed this in length. We need to do what's right for the member, I think.
My only discussion point on this is I feel like this developer had ample time to do the right thing here, and although I'm in favor of approving this because of how tricky of a situation it is, and we want to be good neighbors and good community members, and they've done enough due diligence on the after the fact. I wish their effort matched in the front half of this development. This is another one for people as real estate is booming and new home permits are booming. Take note of this error, folks. This was a major error by this developer and this builder and this homeowner, and it's caused it to come all the way to this level. So take notice of this one, folks. Don't be these people.
I think the word will get out that, diligence, but that, again, that's not our purview. Ours is to vote on the proposal, and all our policies have been followed. Did you want to say anything, Tom?
That'd be great. I just wanted to mention, depending upon the outcome of this vote, they would still need to go in front of the Planning Commission for a vote, and the reason why JB is abstaining is because she is a member of the Planning Commission. So this is one step of many for the property owner.
A very lengthy process. Okay. Jackie?
I guess the only follow-up is that I think in our work session, we commented that in the future, we would try to require the property owner to come before the board in a situation like this, whereas this is kind of after the fact, but I think that would be a worthy thing to document going forward.
Yeah, what we'll do, we'll do that. We do have a owner representative here if there are any questions, but going forward, we're gonna ask them at the onset, not in arrears and so forth, but we were able to inconvenience them at the last, with very limited notice, and they were able to make it, so kudos to them to get here.
Jackie's suggestion would be something we would task the Rules and Regulations Committee with taking a look at it first, getting into the legal nuts and bolts and all that. So that takes time too. Jan?
Just one quick comment, and that is that it is an unfortunate situation. It's one that none of us like, and it's one that could have been avoided, and it might serve as a learning opportunity for us on how to handle this better. But having said that, this particular owner did everything that we asked. Now, if we didn't ask enough, or we didn't have a procedure that was fully developed in the way that we're learning, maybe that's a lesson for us in the future. But this person did everything that we asked, and he did it in a timely way. So although I don't like the situation, I support this as well.
I guess because a property owner representative is here, I would like to, because it is a developer, I'm assuming that I would like to be assured that whatever causes to happen, there are steps in place to make it not recur.
Misty Stevens on behalf of Banff Homes, and thank you for allowing us to come today. And I know it's a big ask, and the process. First of all, I want to just commend you. I'm from Siloam Springs. I was born and raised there, and this is the first time I've come to your board meeting, and you do a great job. It's wonderful, and your community is wonderful. This builder is building other homes on several other lots, and has learned, and it was an unfortunate pinning error of the foundation that got skewed, and we're not trying to play the blame game or anything, but we're just trying to have a solution to be able to put a system in and it work properly. So, thank you.
Thank you. As I said, it's not our purview to get into that. Our policies have been followed, so we will vote on this. All those in favor of the proposal? 8 with 1 abstaining. Okay, that brings us to the really exciting part of the meeting, the announcements. You're all waiting for this, you get to go home. The Lakes JAC meeting is Wednesday, August 9th at 2 p.m. here in the boardroom, followed by the Golf JAC meeting at 4 p.m. on Wednesday, August 9th. The Board of Directors GM meeting is Thursday, August 10th, 2:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. That is a closed meeting. The Recreation, as Deborah told us earlier, Recreation JAC meeting is Monday, August 14th at 4 p.m. here in the boardroom. All of these meetings are live streamed, of course, except the GM meeting. The Board of Directors work session is Thursday, August 17th at 9 a.m. right here. And the August regular meeting, comparable to this one, is the Thursday, the 24th at 6 p.m. here in the boardroom. And again, I thank you all for your time and diligence, and good meeting. Thank you.